Stanley presents, oh, hey, that's me, The Further Adventures of Indiana Jones. Excelsior.
Welcome.
It's time for the further adventures of Indiana Jones.
I could have been your greatest adventure.
No, Frankly, no!
Pack your bag, grab your passport, and prepare to go globetrotting with Marvel Comics' classic four-color adventures of Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones.
So what are you supposed to be, a lion tamer?
I'm a tenured professor of archaeology.
That's gonna be a big help.
I'm here now. What do you want to talk about?
Welcome, IndyCast listeners, to the further adventures of Indiana Jones. I'm Joe Stuber.
And I'm Keith Voss.
Keith, looks like we're going to be going after Bigfoot today.
Ooh, are you ready? Do you have a tent and do you have all your camping equipment?
I'm not going to be messing with Sasquatch. I know that. That's
yeah.
This seems appropriate though, doesn't it? This is like, it's one of those Indiana Jones adventures you think like, yeah, Indiana Jones should go after Bigfoot. That kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it makes perfect sense for an Indiana Jones adventure, but we don't quite get
Don't, John.
Sorry.
Our poor listener. We didn't even play Wilhelmina yet.
No, not yet. But I mean, that just goes to show my a little bit of disappointment that I had with this book. But we'll get into that.
Hey, it's Indy. It's potentially Bigfoot. Might make an appearance on the show today, but I can tell you one thing. We definitely do have a special guest here on the Further Adventure segment today. So, as per usual, why don't we head into the Raven's Nest and see who is bellied up to the bar. Oh, the music is playing, the drinks are flowing, and who is that I see over there at the VIP table? It is none other than Ed Dolista. Ed, welcome back. We just heard you.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. It only took 52 episodes, but you've got a very slow lift.
Yeah. Ed, how did you get from Australia to the Raven's Nest that quickly? That's really amazing.
Well, you know, I just had Smitty take me, and he's not very reliable, so it took me a little bit of time.
I guess maybe he's finally woken up from his... I
thought maybe you hit the hyperdrive and then went into parts unknown.
That's right. I'm not going to even comment on that. So it's great. I love what you've done with the place. It looks fantastic.
We have had problems with interior decorators and explosives in the past, but so far the place has held up.
It's looking pretty good. No, I was hoping to see some remnants of Zomek lying around, but I'll have to look in some of the other rooms a bit later on.
He's in the Amazon somewhere, I think. I don't know.
This is a long time coming. We've been wanting to get together with you to review one of these issues. It's to Austria, to Australia, and getting all the schedules coordinated, and just getting the anniversary IndyCasts together, getting everybody. That's always been kind of a chore. And my fedora's off to you for being able to pull that off. But hey, before the end of Further Adventures run, we definitely want to make sure that we had you in to review one of these Marvel comics with us.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I've scanned through the comics numerous times. I even watched Harry and the Hendersons just to get some insight.
Prep.
I'm going to say this once. I'm going to say it simple, and I hope to God, for your sakes, you all listen. There are no abominable snowmen. There are no Sasquatches. There are no big feet.
Keith, why don't you go ahead and give us the creator rundown on this, and then we'll get into the issue itself.
I would love to. We got the Further Adventures of Indiana Jones, issue number 31, Big Game, with a September 1985 cover date, with a cover by Keith Pollard, script by Linda Grant, pencils by Riccardo Villamonte, inks by Danny Bulinati, colors by George Roussos, and letters by Diana Albers.
Another great cover by Keith Pollard.
You think so?
I like this one. I mean, it doesn't have anything to do with the issue itself, but it's Indy in trouble. It's just okay. Apparently, I'm alone in. I'm alone in this
to
one.
me, it looks more like he's actually. It doesn't look very like a long drop at all to me.
No.
That's the only thing. It looks
totally
like he's sort of
agree.
climbing up a beach front.
It looks like it looks like he's kind of crawling on the ground a little bit. I don't.
But is that the colorist? Is that the colorist problem or not? Because I don't know that's necessarily artwork, but it's the coloring is more sky, but that should probably be because you see a lot of the different penciled artworks on the rocks and things. Maybe some water or something down below or something. I don't know. Could have been colored blue.
I mean, personally, I would have liked to have seen these two tangling. And Indy just about to fall off of the cliff. That's what I would have liked to have seen, like them kind of struggling in a fight of some sort. Indy about to fall off. I mean, and look, this character with the red hair, he's holding a whip. I mean, and we'll find out later on in the issue exactly what that is. Spoiler alert: it's a cat of nine tails. I mean, why not show the cat of nine tails? I mean, it's just showing kind of part of the whip. But
I kind of like that aspect of it because it doesn't. At first glance, it's like. He got Indy's whip, although, well, I guess technically you see it kind of there.
You can see Indy's whip.
But Indy's whip is there. Right, so I mean...
But you don't notice it right off the bat. I mean, so...
Yeah.
Or maybe it's that whole whip versus whip action again, like we've seen in Further Adventures. So,
But again, if they would have shown the cat of nine tails, it would have been like, oh, look at the whip that this guy has.
Okay,
you know
enough.
What I mean? It's yeah, but I mean, to me, it's just it's kind of a boring cover. Again, it's not, you can't quite tell what's going on, except for the fact that they say, well, Indy survived the summit meeting. Okay, by summit meeting, they're on a mountain of some sort or cliffs. So
it's the bad puns have already started.
Yeah, the bad puns have already started. So I'm kind of not so thrilled about this cover. This is also the cover of the third Dark Horse Further Adventures omnibus.
It's the one Dark Horse chose to represent the book,
which is mind-boggling to me. I don't get that at all. But hey, do what you will.
All right. Well, let's get into the issue itself. But before we do, oh, there she is, and she's joining us in the Raven's Nest as well. I guess we got to order a drink for Wilhelmina.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know if she's drinking a straight shot of whiskey like Indy would have ordered for her, but you know what?
She'd be on the schnapps, I think.
She'd be on the schnapps. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. But it looks like she's going to be also celebrating a new year because as we start this book, we are also starting a new year, 1937. Finally, we seem to have gone from 1936 to 1937 overnight.
I'm not complaining. We've been in 1936 forever.
Yeah, but doesn't it seem to be quite... I mean, I guess it's January 1st because the last issue, it was 1936, and Indy's on his way back from China towards the Pacific Northwest, and it is now 1937 as this book
Ed, did you realize that Indy had that many adventures in 1936?
Well, he is a well-known, he's pretty busy. They call him a notorious adventurer, so I suppose that, that equates to that. I mean, and isn't it the international dateline? I'm trying to think, if you travel from China to the United States, do you lose a day as well? So
yeah, was it already 37 in China? We don't know. We don't know.
Well, one thing I do know is that airplane there, is that airplane going to make the journey from China to the Washington state coastline without refueling?
And I think it's a connecting flight, isn't it?
Connecting where is like some little rock in the Pacific? It's like 6,000 miles. Where would you refuel? I mean, it's a 6,000-mile flight.
Maybe
like a transatlantic or trans-Pacific at this point plane or something, but not a biplane. That's not going to make it.
Yeah, it's stretching it a little bit.
Am I wrong on this? I mean, maybe our listeners who are...
It does look like the Spirit of St. Louis a bit. So maybe didn't Lindbergh make it away in one hit? I don't know.
Maybe they have tons of fuel in barrels on the plane.
Sure, yeah, why not?
Right.
I'm just going to say that's why Indy's obviously sitting on the back of Smitty in every shot.
Exactly, and that's why Smitty is seeing lights in the ocean. He's getting a little high, I think.
Well, and speaking of Smitty, this can't be Smitty from issue 4. I mean, does Indy only fly with pilots named Smitty? Because we had Smitty in issue 4 and 5, who turned out to be a Nazi, Schmidt. But he's dead. He was on the train and got crushed by the tunnel when Indy ducked. So
I would have preferred Jock.
Jock or just make it something different. I mean, Linda Grant, I don't know if she didn't read the comics or just saw that it was on a list of potential characters or something, but I don't know.
Don't forget, last issue, she also had Indy going for the first time, quote unquote, in to San Francisco, which she had already before. So I don't think she was quite familiar with some of the other storylines. She may have just coincidentally came up with Smitty again. It just sounded good. It sounded like maybe some Jock-like, and she probably went with that. I don't know.
I get it. I mean, well, yeah, and at least Smitty and Schmidt in issues 4 and 5 had a little bit more to do than Smitty in this one. So,
yeah,
and he's not that great of a pilot either. I mean, yeah, because he sees you mentioned the lights in the ocean, but then Indy thinks it's a whale. Did you guys get that?
Yeah, I didn't get that at all.
Because they look so much alike when you lights in the water and a whale.
Yeah, it's been a long flight.
Indy's a little tired. 1936 to 1937. That's
well, that crash sure woke them up because they got to cut a downdrift, and Smitty ends up wrecking the plane. I would have gone with Jock. Yeah, that's just Smitty's not that great, but yeah, it's Indy they both kind of are like stumble out of the plane, and Smitty's knocked unconscious. Indy's not doing much better.
Indy just passes out on top of him. Did he suffer a head wound there or something? I mean,
I don't know. There's a lot of Indy being inactive in this issue. Let's say. Did you guys notice that a little bit?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's for sure.
He's definitely not the man of action. But so here we got our next new character. This buxom blonde comes in. She's not identified yet, but Indy sure doesn't mind it.
Yeah, and this man that she arrives with, his name is Thundercloud. She arrives with him and says, "Hey, look, check out these two guys over there." And Thundercloud says the one with the hat looks okay, and she says he looks great.
Yeah,
a little strange dialogue here. It's just very okay. This guy's passed out and possibly dying in front of you, and you're checking him out and making moves on him. It's a little strange.
Yeah, and she calls him brown eyes, and yeah.
And poor old Thundercloud. I mean, he's not exactly chopped liver, is he? I mean,
Apparently, she's forgotten all about Thundercloud at this point. Very strange dialogue that goes on there. But yeah, anyway, so we're going through here. And obviously everybody has forgotten about Smitty at this point because he's completely ducked out. So they kind of throw him in the back of the Jeep. They're going to take him to the dock. And this woman really just wants to get out of there because she wants to make sure they're not sitting ducks for Bigfoot. And so there's the first appearance, or at least there's the first mention of where this issue is going to head. Again, I think it's a pretty cool plot device to have Indy going after Bigfoot.
Yes, I agree. The only thing I'm kind of, when I was a kid, I was a little bit of a Bigfoot aficionado. I always thought that one day I'd see a Bigfoot, and I was out. I'd always, whenever I went hiking, in Pennsylvania or something like this, I'd always be on the lookout and collected books about Bigfoot. The only problem here is that in 1937 he wasn't called Bigfoot. Bigfoot was first named in an article in 1958. And then, of course, we had the famous Patterson Gimlin film, the very famous one from 1967, where you see the Bigfoot walking away, and that's really when all the Bigfoot stuff kind of really exploded. So for me, reading this, I was like, Bigfoot in 1930. They should have just called it a Sasquatch the whole time, and then that would have been good for me. But I could see how and why they would want to call it Bigfoot. I mean, Bigfoot is it's a popular name for it, and yeah. But
well, if we've got an airplane flying 6,000 miles without refueling, I guess that's you're kind of suspending disbelief at this point anyway. I guess we could
suspend it a little bit for that, but yeah, for me, that was just something. It just stuck out right away for me.
And of course, Bigfoot was huge in the 70s because both the $6 Million Man and the Bionic Woman tussled with him. So
yeah, that's right. That's
huge. And this is not the first, as we slightly referenced in our last segment. This is not the first time that Indiana Jones has kind of gone on a search for Bigfoot. We have Dark Horse Star Wars Tales issue number 19, Into the Great Unknown, which is a classic kind of Elseworld story.
Yeah, you know what? Forget this book. Just forget it. Just put it down.
You're just going to review Star Wars Tales 19?
Let's just review Star Wars Tales 19 because you know what? That is an amazing story. Okay, guys, yeah, we know it's not canon. It's whatever, but you know what? Pick up this book and read it, and it is an awesome little story that combines Star Wars and Indiana Jones. And to my knowledge, one of the, if not the only story that has done that has combined Star Wars and Indiana Jones, besides all the Star Wars references in the movies and blah, blah, blah. But
yeah,
that is just a great story.
I'm trying to think, have we mentioned this before or gone into much detail before on the IndyCast on Star Wars Tales 19? Because that's a pretty great Indiana Jones tale. Ed, do you recall if they've gone? Ed, do you recall?
I think I'm sure we've alluded to it at some point, but I think you guys need to stick around for an extra episode.
It's not a bad idea.
Well, it's a very cool, and it actually kind of comes in after this one. I mean, so it could be almost a sequel to this further adventure because it includes Short Round. So you've got Short Round, but it's like an older Short Round. So if he's in 35 and then maybe he's a few years older, so that one might, I'm guessing, probably takes place. I don't think it's specifically mentioned, it just says 126 years after the Star Wars, after Han Solo crashes in the woods. But it could take place around 37. Or I'm sorry, around 37, 38.
Sure.
Somewhere around there. So it kind of would fit in with this, and it would kind of make sense that Indy would go back into that area to kind of look for Bigfoot.
Just to make sure. Just to make sure. Yeah, exactly.
Very interesting. And hey, believe in Bigfoot or not, they're still going after him. I'm telling you, if you had a chance to listen to Comic Book Central on Friday, the most recent episode, Dean Cain, my guest on Comic Book Central, hosted the $10 million Bigfoot bounty a couple of months ago, and they actually offered They actually offered $10 million to contestants to find Bigfoot. So yeah, we talk about that. We talk about that on Comic Book Central.
I take it they didn't find him.
I was just gonna say, I guess nobody won.
Well, consider recording this segment before you actually hear that. You guys will have to check that out and find out what the outcome was of the $10 million Bigfoot bounty. But hey, and Dean has a great line in there too, because I asked him if he actually believes in Bigfoot, and he said he thinks of it as he thinks of dating. He's skeptical yet hopeful.
Okay.
So, hey, Superman's going after Bigfoot. Indiana Jones is going after Bigfoot. $6 Million Man goes after Bigfoot. It must be something out there, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I guess so.
But anyway, our intrepid archaeologist goes off as they take off, but something or somebody is watching them as they're driving away.
Yeah, that's right. They don't quite look like a Bigfoot character, so it might be at this point. We're not quite sure, but yeah, she feels like somebody's watching them. And at that point, we find out a little bit of information. I mean, a lot of information here. What's going on between Congo Kate Crawford, who Indy seems to know her. He read about her in Liberty magazine, and she also knows Indy. They ran a story or three on him as well, and she's supposed to be in Africa at this point. And she was on a lecture tour until she heard about this rash of Bigfoot sightings that were here. Nobody ever bagged a Bigfoot before, of course, and she wants to be the very first. It seems like Thundercloud's grandfather told him many stories about the creature, and his grandfather certainly believed that those stories were true. Indy, of course, is skeptical, but Kate mentions that they've found some dead men in the woods that are ripped to shreds and ape-like footprints, of course, that goes along with the Bigfoot legend. And yeah, it's quite interesting. So they kind of put all those little legends together, and it seems like it could, turn out to be an interesting Indiana Jones adventure.
Yeah,
or does it?
Ed, when you first read this, did you? What were your thoughts when you thought, "Oh, Indiana Jones taking on Bigfoot"?
Well, I thought, okay, let's hope it's something interesting, because the past few episodes have been a little light on action, and this one was a lot on. I was just by this page, I was going, oh my gosh, there's so much talking.
Yeah,
let's see some action, please. It's Indiana Jones with and I felt like everyone was out of the cast of Bonanza. They all had that lawn green costume style from Bonanza. It just drove me a bit crazy, but that was just me.
Ed, what are the Bigfoot legends like in Australia?
Well, look, we just know what we've got. We've got a thing called the Yowie, which is sort of a Bigfoot slash, giant marsupial legend. That we also have little chocolate shaped things made out of. But look, I just know of Bigfoot and Sasquatch from In Search of, and which I'm still in therapy for that series with Leonard Nimoy.
A giant, hairy creature, part ape, part man. Indians call him Sasquatch. They believe he is as gentle as he is powerful and mysterious. He's been seen many times in the rugged mountains and deep woods of the Pacific Northwest. The encounters have not always been peaceful.
That's really it. So
Okay.
we don't have, there's no per se.
Like a Bigfoot crossed with a kangaroo? Is that what you're?
Well,
is that
it's. Look, I don't want to misrepresent my country yet again, but if I
Too late. Why worry?
Yeah, I know.
Why worry?
But if you do a Google search for Yowie, something will pop up that looks vaguely. There you go. Actually, I'm looking at him now, and he looks like Bigfoot.
We will find this and post a picture of it on the Further Adventures Facebook page for everyone, so you know what a Yowie is. And
Have we
maybe
stumbled-
Indiana Jones should have gone after one of these instead.
Have we stumbled
Yes.
across the plot for Indy 5? Indiana Jones and the Search for Yowie.
I think
could
Harrison
be.
Ford.
Sorry.
I think Harrison Ford would want the little chocolate things instead of the actual the Yowie itself.
They probably should have had Indy
so
yelling Yowie on the cover page. It would have made sense as to all.
Let
But-
me get that chocolate. Chocolate looks good. Yowie chocolate.
Oh no, have we had an appearance by Old Indy here? Oh no.
Where's
no.
Mitch? Oh, jeez.
No.
Mitch isn't speaking to me after my review of Captain America: The Winter Soldier. So
Yes,
hopefully-
yeah.
As well he shouldn't. As well he shouldn't.
I haven't seen it yet either, Ed. But yeah,
I can't disagree with Mitch on that. That was well, the less said about that, the better, Ed.
they're valid points. They're
Somebody
valid
was grumpy
points.
when they went to go see it.
No, and you know what? I've said the same thing about the Avengers to Joe. Joe didn't talk to me for a week after that.
Anyway,
He didn't talk to me for a
later
week.
in the
I'm
nearby
looking beside
town of
Keith.
Canyon Creek,
Yep.
we see that Thundercloud isn't too sure that Kate should ask Indy to tag along. So Kate wants Indy to go looking for Bigfoot along with her. At least they threw a panel in to explain what happened to Smitty, though, because I was kind of wondering about this point. He's like, yeah, he's in with the doc. He's going to be out for a few days. All
Yeah,
right,
but
he's out of the
that's it.
picture.
He's gone for the rest of the issue. He's just gone.
Yeah,
No more-
it's just a plot device.
It's just exactly. Point A to point B.
Because we know that Indy can't fly planes yet.
Exactly.
So-
Yeah, fly, yes.
Land.
What?
Well, Smitty couldn't land
No.
either, so
Yeah, exactly.
Indy could have done
And
that.
Indy couldn't have helped him out even if he wanted to at that point.
No, but Indy says he's got to get back. You know, he wants to get back to Connecticut, but he wouldn't mind having dinner with Kate. So you know, Indy's still a little bit of Indy there. You know, a little bit of Indy character coming through there. But that date doesn't happen as Sheriff Hyatt arrives and realizes that this is the guy that's on our cover. So we know he and Indy are going to go toe to toe or whip to whip or whatever at some point, maybe, sort of.
Man, there are just a ton of panels on these pages.
There's a lot of panels.
It's so distracting.
A lot of panels as we go through. We got a 2-page spread there of nothing but panels and dialogue. At least they threw a bar fight in there somewhere.
I agree. It was a little confusing as to go. I don't know why they couldn't have just done one whole panel with a giant bar fight, someone swinging from a chandelier, the piano player, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. You have the bartender say, "Hey, Indian, get out of here," you know, and that's all you need. Boom, then the bar fight starts, and there you go. It's really all you need. But they
Yeah, I
just
felt bad
really
for-
went on and on.
I felt bad for Ricardo Belmonte because these guys get paid by the page, not by the panel. So
Right, and there's
it's
a lot.
a lot of artwork. So yeah, I mean, again, Fedora's off to this time to Ricardo Villamonte for getting all of that action in because he had to figure out how to get all those panels in with the dialogue and everything else. So, but anyway, so we've got Indy wants to get along with Thundercloud at least. I mean, he's trying to figure out what's going on with him. Thundercloud doesn't want Indy anywhere involved in this. And then we've got this bar fight breaks out with the bartender who doesn't want Thundercloud, American Indians, in his bar. He's mad at Indy for bringing him in here, and everything just kind of just goes nuts at this point.
Yeah. Now, I thought they were going to throw in a bit of a Star Wars Cantina reference in here when I saw that. With the, no droids.
Okay.
And and all that. I thought they could have done something, but...
And Indy could have whipped a guy's arm off. You know what I mean?
No whips.
No whips, exactly. See? Already we've made the book better.
Yes.
Just already. It's Kate shows up and she's putting an end to this bar fight. And I mean, she comes in, she shoots her gun off into the air. Everybody stop it. And it just seems that there's more... Indy at least thinks that there's more to Thundercloud than meets the eye. Obviously, he's very standoffish. He wants to be left alone. There's something going on with this guy.
Indy still says, "Hey, I've got to get back to Connecticut. I'm heading out of here." There's really no point for him to stay at this point. He doesn't believe in Bigfoot. He doesn't want to get mixed up in all the problems that the bartender has with Thundercloud and everybody else. So he just wants to get out of there. Interesting situation happens, though. Sheriff Hyatt comes in and says that the bartender was killed by Bigfoot. And he says he was murdered by Bigfoot. So I thought that was strange.
Slip of the tongue there. A little slip of the tongue, probably.
Well, I mean, unless he thinks that Bigfoot is a person or what. I mean, it would be killed or, sliced up to death or something like that, but it wouldn't be murdered. I thought that was a law. But then the mayor comes in, Clayton Dunn, and he says... he uses actually the correct terminology and says he was killed.
They order everyone. They're ordering everyone to stay away from the cliffs. I mean, they say that they've got a murderer on the loose, though. Not that it's necessarily Bigfoot. At least that's what the mayor thinks.
Well, the mayor thinks it's a person. He doesn't buy into the Bigfoot thing. So he's on a murder investigation. And so we find out that there's problems between Hyatt and the mayor as well.
Right.
So now there's that whole thing going down. And then thinking there's a murder, the mayor accuses Thundercloud because they're the ones that mixed it up the night before.
Yeah, and Thundercloud is not so happy. He thinks that they're pinning it on him just because he's an American Indian. And Thundercloud doesn't want any of this, and he just takes off in his Jeep.
Doesn't it make you look guilty?
Well, they're trying to pitch him as this sort of somewhat mysterious character, and if he stuck around, this adventure would probably be over a little sooner. Maybe that would have been a good thing. So, it's I think they had to do it. I mean, the thing that reminded me the so-called lynch mob, they reminded me a little bit of the guys from Last Crusade, Panama Hat and the guys, those sort of characters, which I sort of liked, even though that obviously this preempted that by a few years. But
the mayor he's got like a top hat on and stuff. Yeah, it's very I agree. It's very similar to that.
To that sort of just that sort of gang that is working with Hyatt and the like. But I just found it a bit funny. The next when I've forgotten even her name. Kate? What's her name?
Kate,
Congo Kate.
Where she's going, it'll make you happy. I'll help you look for Thundercloud. And then the next panel that evening, forget about Thundercloud. It was ridiculous. It's like, what?
Yeah. Her character is just, because at the beginning it was like, she's like hitting on Indy. And then it's like, well, I don't care about anything but Bigfoot. And she's kind of all over the map a little bit.
Mm.
Yeah. And I just think that comes from poor writing. I mean, I just think it's just not written very well for something that has so much dialogue and man, so much dialogue. It's just, I don't know. She doesn't even seem to be able to keep her own story straight.
Yeah, and so they make camp, and then Indy, he's kind of like wondering, okay, let's assume for the sake of argument there is a Bigfoot. Well, what are you planning on doing with him? Like, you know,
they don't have any like nets or any like anything. You know what I mean? They're like there's nothing with them that would help.
No, she said she wanted to bag a Bigfoot. That was at the beginning
how?
of the thing. She wanted to bag a Bigfoot. So there's nothing really that you have. So he assumes she's going to kill him, whatever.
She's got a gun, but like, yeah, you're gonna shoot it, and then what? You're gonna just drag it back with your teeth? I mean,
Well,
like, what?
She's saying it's justified because he's out there, killing all these people. So I need to take him out. But are you trying to stop the killing, or do you want to bring him back? And then Indy's like, well, what if it's the last one of his kind? You're gonna just get rid of. It just, it's a little bit strange. So I don't know. Does Indy believe in Bigfoot at this point, or is he just arguing for the sake of arguing, or what's?
I think he's arguing for the sake of science in a way. I think he's saying like, it doesn't matter Bigfoot, whatever it is. It could be Bigfoot, it could be tigers, it could be lions and bears. Oh my! But like, he wouldn't say like, I mean, he would say something like, you would want to wipe out a whole species. That would be wrong. Like he's arguing the point with her, and she doesn't seem. I mean, she's Congo Kate. She obviously has also a reputation of going out and going on these safari hunts or whatever, probably killing lots of animals. And Indy probably doesn't necessarily agree with that. If you've seen the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, you would know that he did not also like when Roosevelt was doing the same thing. So maybe that's where he learned it. It all comes together once again.
And then we've got a lot of panels of people like traipsing around through the woods, and they're looking for Thundercloud, and
she thinks
it's Bigfoot. Yeah, so she goes after that, and then Indy's like, well, what about Thundercloud? So it turns out Thundercloud, he's kind of sneaking around too. He's been trying to get to this cabin. So he's trying to get to this cabin, and he finally finds his way in, and then he just happens to find a cat of nine tails. Selena Kyle's weapon of choice.
Yes, exactly.
And so now we kind of see like, okay, how's this going to play into? I mean, we know that from the cover. Okay, that's what Hyatt was holding. So is that kind of a giveaway? Is that kind of a reveal too early at this point?
I don't know. I think if you put two and two together, I mean, they say how it looks like a bear could have ripped apart the bartender or things like that. Like just the way he was ripped apart. I mean, you see the claws at the end of the cat of nine tails. Even Thundercloud says, yeah, it's just the sort of thing for a nice gruesome killing. So at this point, I think you're probably putting two and two together and saying, all right, maybe there isn't a Bigfoot here. Maybe someone is indeed killing these guys, and here's the weapon that they're using for it.
Yeah, and this is a nasty thing too. I mean, it's this multi-tailed whip, and it said it was used also as by the Royal Navy and the Army of the United Kingdom, and also used as judicial punishment in Britain and some other countries. Ed, I noticed it was used in penal colonies in Australia.
Yes, I used one last week, in fact.
Does this seem to be a weapon of choice over?
Yeah, only if you're hunting a yowie.
Or a bartender.
That's
or
right.
Bartenders. Yes, exactly.
What gets me is, why didn't the bartender just run away? It's not like it's a gun, it's got a finite length. He can try and escape. You would have thought.
Especially when you find out kind of who the bartender is.
Yeah.
When that gets revealed, you're kind of like, really? Like, that guy had no... Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah, when you put the pieces together, it's like, they
Yeah.
kind of go into the story, and then when you start going back through the story and putting the pieces together, like, okay, that wouldn't have made any sense. But so he's discovered by one of Hyatt's men. There's a gunshot that goes off. Indy and Congo Kate hear this thing. He's concerned about Thundercloud. She doesn't care at this point. She just wants Bigfoot. She thinks somebody's going after a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Again, it's just sort of that one-dimensional character that they're going through.
Is she totally insane at this point too? Is she
I'm not
really
big on her. Yeah, I'm not big on her as a character.
Because she's like, keep moving. I saw something run into that ravine. Let's keep going. Keep going. I want to check it out. It's like, wait a minute. Like, there's like these guys are out here with guns, and you're just kind of. She just doesn't care.
Yeah, it's a lot more sneaking around in the woods and
the
forest and but we do get a little bit of expositional dialogue in the fact that we know that Hyatt's up to something, if we haven't figured that out already. But he's saying basically, we're so close. This is where our hard work is really going to pay off. So he's got some plan going on. His guy is back. Is it Zach? I think is back in the cabin.
Zach, yeah.
Just like opening fire on Thundercloud. And it's kind of like a morbid. It takes a really dark turn. It's like he's like Hyatt mentions that he's going to kill him slowly, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm not worried about Zach. Zach is okay. Really, that's a little morbid." And so Zach's just like shooting him to see if he'll bleed out or something. Yeah, it's just very.
It looks like in the one panel, he gets him in the arm, and he's just kind of like shooting like directly next to him, or
he's like having fun with it.
Too quick, or I mean, but it does take quite a dark turn. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, he's having fun with it. So yeah, and I thought this was an odd part of the whole situation too. But then all of a sudden, Thundercloud bumps into the cat of nine tails. He grabs that, and then it gets even darker because he's just like, especially when you find out who he is later, and then it's like it looks like there's a different motivation going on here.
Well,
because he's saying, don't you ever dare. My people have suffered enough at the hands of scum like you, and he just starts wailing on him with his cat of nine tails.
This
and it's
guy,
like,
number one, is trying to kill him. Okay, number two, he's insulting him left and right, calling him Injun and all these other things. I think at this point, like he's had enough. He just sees red, and yeah, he goes to town. I mean, there's a couple of panels that are really dark. You see the shadow of Thundercloud. Just really like it reminded me a little bit of Temple of Doom here with the with the thuggy guard when he starts beating the child with the whip. You see like the arm.
I mean, I guess Indy has gone pretty dark before, so
yeah. So I mean, this isn't quite as nearly as dark as as guards beating on children with whips, but I mean, it's up there. Yeah, it's up there for sure.
But then Indy comes in and like kind of breaks it up. He's got the drop on Thundercloud, and then we find out that the bartender was an FBI agent.
Yeah,
and he was killed to keep him quiet. Indy doesn't know who to trust at this point, and so he's like, "Look, we're all going back." And then Thundercloud just knocks him out. And this is the biggest problem I have with the book. I don't know about you guys, but it's just Indy's just taken out completely. I mean, he's got no bearing on what's going on here whatsoever.
Well, like Thundercloud doesn't look like a pushover. He looks like a pretty solid
But Indy's got a gun on him.
Yeah, but I mean, Indy isn't quite sure how to read him. You know what I mean? He's not just gonna.
No, but Indy took out a whole bar full of Nazis and Raiders. I mean, I'm sorry when you got to drop on a guy who's already been shot in the arm and he's like dodging, bullets. It's like, come on.
Yeah, but there's a really important piece of dialogue here where he says, if you think I'm a killer, then go ahead and gun me down. Otherwise, get out of my way. So Indy, at that point, look, you can see the gun is pointed at Thundercloud, right? And when he says that line, if you think I'm a killer, gun me down, the gun is pointed away from Thundercloud then. So the gun is down already. He just got the drop on Indy. I'm sorry. He got the drop on him.
Well,
Indy wasn't quite sure.
But it's an Indiana Jones story. I just hate the fact that Indiana Jones is taken out of it. I mean, honestly, at this point, what has Indiana Jones done that was Indiana Jones like in this adventure?
Well, yeah, that's the biggest problem with the story, isn't it? Like,
I mean, he got knocked out in the plane. He gets dragged around. He gets punched out here. He's knocked out again. I mean, it's
almost like Thundercloud is the hero of this issue.
Yeah.
Yes.
He really is. He really. They decided to put Indy kind of almost in the sidekick, in the sidekick part. And Thundercloud is kind of like the hero. Maybe Thundercloud should have gotten his own series, The Further Adventures of Thundercloud.
I would have loved that. That would have been cool.
I think Indy is the Gus Gorman of this. He's like Superman, and Thundercloud is Richard Pryor, and he's just taking a little bit of a back seat.
Exactly.
He just shows up. Wow, Superman 3 reference.
I love it.
Nice.
I love it.
Never would have seen it.
At least it wasn't a Superman 4 reference.
Oh God, destroy Superman. Anyway, all right, let's go.
yes. Indy is the nuclear man of. Let's move on.
Which Nuclear Man? Nuclear Man 1 or Nuclear Man 2?
Let's not even. At least he's not the John Cryer of the book. Anyway, let's moving on. Moving on. All right.
So now we find out what is going on. Kate finally stumbles across. She gets to these cliffs. She can't find Bigfoot, but what she does find is a Japanese sub. Oh, those were the lights. It looks exactly like a whale. Why does a whale have lights? We have no idea, but she's found it. Hyatt comes in. Oh, you've uncovered my plan. I was going to sell military secrets to the Japanese. How does a sheriff in Washington state get military secrets? And even says, I'm like this sheriff in this podunk town and I'm out of here now. It's like, how does he get military secrets?
Well, maybe they're like accurate secrets. You can just
like made them up.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're over here at these coordinates. Okay. There's a lot of... It's so much story being told here, but there's probably so much story that should have been told that would have made more sense.
I totally agree. It's just it's a kind of a mess at this point, and you kind of want Bigfoot to show up right now and just kind of take everybody out and end this.
That would have been awesome,
right? Oh, there it is, Bigfoot. But actually, Hyatt does hear something. He hears a couple of stomps as he's revealing his big plot.
It's Bigfoot,
and it's Bigfoot. He said, "Wait, what's making all that racket?" It's Bigfoot. But they're like, "But we made it up." Oy vey.
Let's reveal our entire plan to everybody. Yeah.
Yes, it's just not it's just not making much sense. So they claim that they made up Bigfoot, or did they? Is it actually Bigfoot? No, it's Thundercloud.
It's Thundercloud. And so he starts mixing it up with Hyatt, and Kate goes mixing it up with the unnamed thug, and she doesn't last long. She ends up going over a cliff.
Yeah. Can I just point out what's the deal with Hyatt suddenly doing a Superman flying in that middle? He's standing right next to him, and then all of a sudden he's either doing that or a Matrix style fly. I don't know. It's
those are the secrets that they're selling to the Japanese.
Rocket propulsion.
Rocket propulsion, exactly. We finally see Indy get in on the action, but man, is that a lame joke.
Yeah, we've seen
now,
that.
Who wants to go for the big? Who wants to go for the big money? Oy. Again, it's like it's what we've mentioned before. It's the Spider-Man syndrome. Mm-hmm. He comes in and he makes a funny joke, and we're supposed to. I mean, I don't know. It just doesn't seem very Indiana Jones to me.
At least he gets a punch in. I mean, at least he's doing something at this point. But yeah, it's kind of a lame joke. And we find out this whole time, I mean, Indy doesn't know who to trust, but now Thundercloud reveals himself that he's FBI, which again, when you go back and he's like wailing on Hyatt with the cat o' nine tails, it's like, well, if you're FBI, just arrest him and take him in. That's what you're there for. You're there to investigate him. And he was trying to get there was his partner at the bar, and he started the fight so he could like whisper in his ear, like to tell him that the Japanese sub was coming. Didn't they have like a rendezvous point? Did they have to start a whole bar fight and start like this whole racial bar fight to go on? It's like
and they're telling each other secrets behind the bar while everybody else is like really could be killing each other at this point. Like, is that worth it?
And if he had killed Hyatt with the cat o' nine tails, which is what he was looking like he was going to do, then how was he going to get the drop on him with the plot with the Japanese sub? That would have been done. I mean, Hyatt wouldn't have been there to meet him. So I don't know. It's sort of strange. But then, Indy doesn't know who to trust. He's going to take them both in, and then Hyatt grabs the cat o' nine tails. This is kind of where we get our cover. Not really, because Indy doesn't really hang off a cliff at any point. He just gets wailed on by this cat o' nine tails, and again, he's completely taken out of the adventure. I really don't like that.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. Indy's jacket gets totally ripped to shreds. Good thing he is wearing that leather jacket. But again, at no point does Indy go over. I mean, I guess because there's really not a whole lot of action going on here. That's why they showed Indy going off the cliff for the cover, because that's actually something that has to do with some action. I mean, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's really just a poor choice for not including Indy going over the cliff. I think.
It's reasonably shoddily plotted along. I was hate to say it, I was a little bit bored. Going, okay, come on. Well, I like my Indiana Jones adventures with some Indiana Jones.
Yes.
In the story, so he's such a good character. Use him. You can use Thundercloud as well, but there's just a better way to do it. And it's all about, I've said it before, it's all about showing, not telling. If you can show something, do show it. It's much more, it's such a visual medium. Don't talk about it. I remember when I was 15. When did this come out? 85 or 86?
Probably around 84, 85, yeah.
85. So, I'm 15. I just wanted to look at the pictures. I didn't really want to read it that much, so let's have a little bit more action. And I still don't understand how Thundercloud's about to get, whipped, and then all of a sudden he's switched places, and then shoots high.
Yeah. It's out of nowhere.
And he doesn't even wing him. Like to take him in, he
he shoots
just
him in the face by the look.
Kills him. Yeah, It's a lot of really dark turns, and I think these characters could have been. I think with Thundercloud and with Kate, you have characters that could have been strong, but they come across as like really one-dimensional and often disturbing.
It was a tough time in the Old West, you know. Just ask the Cartwrights.
In the wild woods of Washington.
Yes.
And we're promised Bigfoot, and no Bigfoot.
Yeah, and I mean, Indy even asked, so was Bigfoot part of Hite's scheme is to scare away people from his meeting with the sub? Of course! Yeah. I mean, of course it was, you know what I mean? Indy should be, and that's the thing, Indy should be smarter than that. Like, of course that was part of the scheme. I mean, but we see Thundercloud, he's given a lot of expositional dialogue here to Indy. Tons of it, you know. And then we see Kate show up.
But didn't you get a sense in those panels? Didn't you get a sense in those panels, though, that it was like all the questions we've been asking about this adventure up until now, that at the end they're like, okay, we better address all these things because none of it made any sense.
Yeah.
So let's give a couple throwaway lines, and then you just have to kind of go, oh, okay.
Yeah, and then we see Kate show up, and Indy's surprised. Kate, you're here, and she, oh, how much did I miss? But you went off the cliff, and she kind of gives an explanation that it could have possibly have been Bigfoot that saved her. But you know what?
Yeah, something reached out and grabbed her and put her up on the thing. So it's like, oh, Bigfoot. Okay, maybe there is a Bigfoot.
But then, I mean, Indy reveals later that it was him, that he was the one that saved her. But you know what? Would it have been better if it was left ambiguous?
I think so.
Yeah, of course, right? I mean, you leave it ambiguous. Oh, maybe she climbed up herself. Maybe who knows? Maybe it was Bigfoot. And at that point, Indy, you could have ended this book and say, "Man, I wonder what really happened there. That's kind of strange. Maybe I should go back and check it out." You know,
or wouldn't it have been cool to have like one last panel of hairy foot or something, or like a clawed hand or something?
With the plane going into the sunset, I thought they would have had like just the back of Bigfoot looking as the plane flies off into the sunset.
It was kind of like that little moment in Star Wars Tale 19 with Chewbacca. He's kind of at the end. It's like Chewbacca is Bigfoot. So it would have made sense. I mean, obviously, you can't. They didn't know that at the time, but yeah, it would have been so cool to just have that there and just realize that could be a possible future adventure for Indiana Jones.
In a small panel, that's all you would have needed, and that would have, you know what? Honestly, that would have saved the book for me. That would have made to say, okay, cool, all right, there really was a Bigfoot the whole time, whatever, and it's not an evil thing like they were pointing it out to be. It actually saved her, and it's something good, and maybe you know what I mean. It would have saved the book for me.
The last panel, we do have Kate going back with Indiana Jones. She's going back to Africa by way of Connecticut. So all those great adventures they're going to have. Yeah, they're not.
And how did they repair that? How did they repair the plane?
Is it the same plane or did they repair it?
It's the same color.
Yeah,
it looks like the same plane.
I thought they should have colored it differently, just so you could say, okay, it's a different plane. That other thing was trashed.
And what happened to why is all of a sudden Thundercloud haven't got a receding hairline? What's going on there?
That was a stressful adventure for him. I mean, geez.
And what happened to Smitty? And what about Scarecrow's brain?
Yes. Exactly.
Interesting. Let me throw this out there. Overall thoughts, guys. I mean, I know it's not the strongest Further Adventures adventure, but did at least the thought of Bigfoot maybe intrigue you guys on some level?
I'll say that yes, the thought of Bigfoot intrigued me. Like I said, mediocre adventure, not the best. It was okay. I liked Thundercloud. I thought Thundercloud was an interesting character. But you know what, guys? Like I said before. Check out Star Wars Tales 19, Into the Great Unknown, a much better Indiana Jones Bigfoot story.
Yeah, Ed, thoughts?
Yeah, I 5 out of 10. It's a shame I had to come in on this one,
See what happens when you wait so long?
I know. But look, it's still...
You could have had Stonehenge.
I know, but that's all right. Look, that's all right. It's still
glad to have you here.
Hey, it's Further Adventures. It's Keith. It's Ed. It's Bigfoot. It's Yazoo. What was it?
The Yowie.
The Yowie. It's the Yowie.
That's a band from the 80s, isn't it? The Only Way Is Up? No, that's Yaz.
That's Yaz, exactly.
The Yahoo, the chocolate drink. What was it? It's all Yoo-hoo.
Come on.
Yoo-hoo.
Oh, goodness gracious.
So anyway, and you know what? It's interesting too when you look at the readers of the Lost Ark column there. Not only was this adventure like, oh, so much potential, and then not so much. Even the comments during the readers of Lost Ark, it mentioned Linda Grant had promised the return of Willie in Short Round to further adventures. Oh, that's not going to happen. We find out that Indy's whip is 12 feet long. We do get a little information there. We find out Steve Ditko is going to be returning to work with Linda Grant as the permanent creative team on Further Adventures, Keith. The permanent creative team.
Yeah,
3 more issues. They wanted to do another Michael Golden cover, which I would have been all for. Friend of the show, Michael Golden. And a definite maybe for a Further Adventures of Indiana Jones annual. Oh, what could have been.
Oh, what could have been is right. Yeah. Linda Grant promised the return of William Shaw, and she also promised the return of, I don't know if this was Linda Grant, but Lao She, a bunch of new characters, with the expansion of the movies. A whole new set of characters that could have been used for Further Adventures, unfortunately never came to be.
Well, Disney has the license now. Ed, do you think, we've talked about this on the Further Adventures segment, do you think we're going to see some of those comic book adventures, a return of Further Adventures?
I'd love to. I know they're looking into, they've done, I think DuckTales, a lot of the, I think they've done a Darkwing Duck, comics again, and they're doing one on the Dreamfinder at the moment. So look, let's hope Indiana Jones. It's great comic book fodder, I think. So,
well, your thoughts as far as if they would, if Disney / Marvel were to continue Indiana Jones in the comics, would you like to see it titled The Further Adventures of Indiana Jones? Do you think it would a monthly? Do you think the Dark Horse route of just taking miniseries every so often?
Look, I'd just be happy to see anything. I think they probably would, just for that nostalgia factor, title it The Further Adventures of Indiana Jones. I would like to see them do the Indiana Jones in the proper Indiana Jones font, which I'm sure they would do. But apart from that, I'd be happy to see anything, any comics of Indy. So
where would you set it? Would you go back? I mean, because you can pick anything. Would you set it pre-Raiders? Would you set it in the 40s?
I'd like to see a bit of a mix, OSS, and then early on maybe some young Indy adventures. It'd be great to see a little mix of it. So, or who knows? Maybe a few little mini adventures in some episodes. I'd just be happy to see anything.
Yeah. No, I'd like to see him meet up with Thundercloud again. Why not?
That's why I see you drop these great characters in here, and they're just not well developed in the series a lot of times. But you've got a whole world, a whole universe of Indiana Jones characters out there waiting in the comic book world.
Yeah, really. I mean, Thundercloud is a pretty cool character. I mean, what could have been? Again, like what we said, they set up all like this great universe of all these great characters, and just not used to their full potential, unfortunately.
Now, Ed, what are your thoughts on the Further Adventures series as a whole? Because I know years ago on the IndyCast we found out Mitch's thoughts on the Further Adventures series as a whole. I don't know if our segment has maybe softened his view toward it, or at least made him a tad nostalgic for it. But what are your thoughts when you've kind of gone back over these issues, and now we got the Dark Horse omnibus reprints and things like that? What do you think of the series in totality?
Oh, look, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I at the time, I loved it. I would wait each month while my comic was waiting for me at the newsagent where I used to get it. Sadly, they always used to write the the price in texter on the cover, which always
like that
me because we had Australian prices, which were about 3.
Is that like grease paint or grease pencil or something?
No, texter. What's like a Sharpie.
Oh, okay. Well, they did back in the day. They used to do like grease pencils. They used to write on them in that. So
there we go. Yowie and Texter. There we go.
Texter.
Man. We'll get. What was that? Oh, British. Why are you going like that for? Anyway,
it is a truly international segment, folks.
It is. So look, I thought I enjoyed it, and going back, I've sort of dropped a little bit out of reading comics. That mindset, but look, I still enjoy the adventures, and the covers look great, and they and for the most part, the stories are good fun, adventures. So it's just a shame it didn't reach its full potential.
Yeah, and we read those comments in the letter section. It's like, oh, all these things we're going to do. And then, of course, you had Temple of Doom, which gave you a whole new cast of characters. And then even if it had made it a few more years, just Last Crusade would have opened up even more. But we once Further Adventures ends, we do have the Marvel adaptation of The Last Crusade. And Keith, probably a good time as any just to thank Ed once again just for letting us do this. Because this was, Keith and I used to talk about the comics all the time, but we never like nobody else listened, and so it was it was just like we kept ourselves entertained. But you've given us a kind of a platform to kind of express our love for this series. Once again, we appreciate you allowing us to do this.
Thank you.
Oh, don't be ridiculous! I'm absolutely thrilled that you guys are on board and have been for such a long time, and a part of the show. And thank goodness, because sometimes in some of those lean times where there hasn't been much, much indie coverage at all, you guys are there, creating some really interesting segments and looking back, and hopefully you can continue on with, the Dark Horse. And I did notice, I was reading in episode 33, there was a Muppet Babies issue of the Temple is, I think it's a Temple of Zoom, which I'm pretty sure is an indie-related style comic. So you've got that to look at. Okay. So there's another episode.
Can't be any worse than Bigfoot.
True. And then, of course, I was thinking you might do the all the Mad and Cracked adaptations as well.
That's not a bad idea.
Plenty of stuff.
So if we're doing that, you've got Indy 5. You're going to be doing the IndyCast for another 5 years at least. So
at least, yes.
At least.
You were locked in. Have you signed the contract yet?
Yes, it's just with my lawyers at the moment, so just going through the fine details.
You just have to get are you working for points, or do you get a salary?
Oh no, I get points.
Cool,
so,
nice.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Just like Harrison Ford.
Yep.
That's right. They're actually frequent flyer points, but that's the main thing.
It's with
piloted by Smitty.
By Smitty. Poor Smitty.
Oh my goodness.
Poor Smitty. He just gets taken out. So.
Where's the Smitty action figure? That's what I want to know. That would be good.
Somebody has to make a custom of Smitty out there.
Yep, Ron Hemble, where are you?
Exactly, and you have to make him look dizzy and not knowing where he is most of the time.
Well, you mentioned
Smitty now in stores.
Yes,
with concussive action.
Yes, and whale accessory that lights up.
Light up whale. Oh, you got to admit this is one of the stranger issues. So, but you know what? You did mention the Dark Horse series. Keith and I, we've got 3 more issues of Further Adventures. We're going to make an announcement after that, where we're going to kind of go with that. But again, thank you so much for allowing us this platform to be able to do this. It's been fun.
It absolutely has.
Familiar names and places coming up in issue number 32. Keith, it's the beginning of the end of Further Adventures, part 1 of the 3-part miniseries Double Play.
Yeah, it's all coming to an end soon, guys.
Got that coming up.
It's kind of bittersweet, but we knew it had to end sometime.
It's 34 issues. And speaking of 34 issues, Ed,
yes.
We're continuing talking about the biggest Further Adventures giveaway yet.
It sounds exciting. I'm waiting to see some of the entries. It looks really exciting.
So are we.
Well, we've been building up to this. We've got 2 sets of Further Adventures books to give away. Keith, tell us what our Further Adventures fans, our IndyCast listeners, could potentially score.
Well, with set 1, Joe, they could win the Further Adventures of Indiana Jones issue number 1, The Icons of Ikemonin Part 1, and issue number 2, The Icons of Ikemonin Part 2, issue number 15 signed by artist Herb Trimpe, and issue number 25 signed by artist Michael Golden. And we've added a little something else to sweeten the pot, Joe. Do you want to tell them what that is?
We are going to add the Dark Horse Free Comic Book Day comic book featuring Temple of Yearning. We're going to add that to both sets. In fact, in set 2, issue 23, signed by Michael Golden, and Master of Kung Fu issue 121 with the rare Indian His Office splash page by John Byrne. That one will also have the Dark Horse Free Comic Book Day Temple of Yearning. which was an IndyCast radio drama as well.
That's right. So you can follow along if you don't have that issue. And you know what? Why not? If you guys want to recreate that cover, go ahead. Go ahead. Might as well. So
no. One of the 34. Only one of the 34.
It only has to be one of the 34 further adventures of Indiana Jones comic book covers. We want you guys to recreate that any way that you can. It'd be very cool to see. I mean, don't bother with the Bigfoot issue though. Don't just leave that.
Or at
one
least
out.
don't hang off a cliff.
You
could Photoshop yourself hanging off a cliff. You could do that too. Just get your cat of nine tails and go from there. Hey, only one entry per person. In the case of multiple entries, only the first one we receive will be eligible. Those entries have to be submitted to thefurtheradventures@gmail.com. Only those entries sent to the email address will be eligible. So again, 1 through 34, you got 34 different covers you can bring to life. Lego, action figures, Photoshop, anything you want to do, bring those covers to life. Ed, which one would you choose?
Well, I quite... It's, Dragon by the Tail would be kind of fun.
That's my favorite.
But
I want to see that brought to life.
So can we actually, can I just photocopy one of the covers and send that in to you? Or
I don't think you're eligible.
Okay, darn it.
Well,
it's worth a shot.
I think if anybody is not eligible, I would think it would be you.
But I mean, I would love to see a Dragon by the Tail cover with like Ed's face photoshopped over Indy's. That would be.
I would like to see Ed as Johnny Depp on a Further Adventures cover.
Yeah,
or
we're talking
Ed
about.
as Indiana Jones and Ed as Captain Jack Sparrow on a cover of Further Adventures of Indiana Jones. How cool would that be?
That would be a good crossover, wouldn't it?
Great crossover, and
I might have to give you something. If you do that, I might just have to give you something anyway.
I've got 3 issues to go, don't I? So I'll get onto it. I'll see what I can do. See what I can do.
Time is running out. We will determine the top 2 covers of those individual. We will determine the top 2 covers, and those individuals will get the books. We're going to announce the first and second place covers after our review of issue 34, which is only 3 short issues away. Keith, we've only got 3 issues left.
Oh man, it's a sad day. But
no, it's a happy time. It's
you know what'll make us happy? Why don't we check out some emails, guys?
Mister, get your arm out of that mailbox. I mean now.
Oh, dear me. I haven't had so much trouble delivering a package since the incident in Vienna.
Just one email today. Ed, would you like to do the honors?
Certainly. This one's from Wayne Barnes, and it says, Joe and Keith, in reference to the Bigfoot issue, there was an official Star Wars Indy crossover where Han and Chewie, I believe, got pulled into a black hole and crashed on Earth. Can't recall for sure, but I believe Han met his fate at the hand of angry natives. Years later, an intrepid archaeologist stumbled on a strange structure, the Falcon, overgrown with vines out in the jungle. Indy discovers the skeleton of a certain smuggler when off in the distance he hears the growl of the mysterious Sasquatch. It was a fun little Elseworld story and a natural fit if ever I saw one. I'll have to find my copy as it's been packed away, but a true classic crossover.
Yeah, thank you, Wayne. We referenced that on the last episode, and certainly we've talked about it a lot here. Yep, Into the Great Unknown. I love that issue too because it has so many Star Wars indie references. We've got I Got a Bad Feeling About This. We've got Wuhan's line as the title, and Indy mentions that. There's a couple of other ones too in there, I believe.
Indy even mentions that he went to Atlantis. So I mean, a cool when him and Short Round eventually find the Falcon, he goes, "I've never seen technology quite like this before, not even in Atlantis." So lots of cool little callbacks to previous Indiana Jones stories. It's just a great indie Star Wars crossover. Again, like I said before, we know it's not canon, but you know what? Throw all that away and just read it for a good story, because that's exactly what it is.
Yep, if you want the best Indiana Jones Bigfoot story, opt for that one.
Okay, that's it for the day then.
Well, that is it. Class is out for today. Ed Dolista, thank you once again for joining us in the Raven's Nest. We are so glad that we got a chance to have you as our guest today.
Well, thank you so much for having me into the wonderful... I forgot. Oh my God! I've forgotten the name of the place. The Raven. I'm thinking the Ray. Oh my gosh. Anyway, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it. And again, thank you for your efforts on the show over the, however many years it's been. And hopefully you guys will continue to be a part of the show in the future. for Indy 5 and beyond.
There's so much going on. We know that information's coming down the pike. We've seen Harrison Ford with his Ask Me Anything, and
yes,
it's just, I think he's starting a new trend of being in movies but not telling people that he's in movies.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys kind of get a sense that every movie he does from now on is like, maybe I'm in it, maybe I'm not?
Yeah, but that's kind of cool, though. I mean, in this world of spoilers every 2 seconds posted on the internet, it's kind of cool to get a surprise every now and then. You know what I mean? I kind of like that. It's a little like it's beating you over the head every day. There's a new Star Wars rumor every day. There's just a new rumor about this, a new rumor about that. I want to be surprised, and you know what? If I'm gonna get surprised, I want it to be about Indiana Jones. Nice. I want to all of a sudden hear, "Hey, guess what? We've been working on Indiana Jones already. It's coming out."
That's true.
I would love that.
Well, I think we've got an Indy 5 coming up. Who knows what other Indy stuff we've got coming up. I'm sure we've got the IndyCast for another 5 years at least. We know Ed's locked in. So that's going to be awesome. And Keith and I really enjoy being a part of the show. We thank you very much for that. And thanks for joining us in the Raven's Nest today.
No, thank you again. It's been a great pleasure.
Keith, next time on the IndyCast, it's part 1 of the final Further Tale.
Oh boy, next time on the Further Adventures of Indiana Jones.